Hello, you beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining us here at Top Billers Toolkit, where me and my twin brother interview top billers from all around the globe to unlock the secrets to their success. Today's guest is David Wells. David Wells is a consistent 500k biller. David's story is an interesting one because he had one of the worst years of his career in 2024 because he got sucked down an AI rabbit hole. Clay, Apollo, ChatGPT, Claude, you name it, he was probably using it because he was convinced it would make him more efficient and bill more. In reality, it actually did the opposite. It took him one of the worst years of his career and a massive epiphany for him to dump all of the AI tools and get back to the fundamentals, the things that really move the needle in recruitment. In today's episode, we're going to discuss David's flywheel BD approach that generates 80% of his business, how he warms prospects up for months in advance before he sends his NPCs, and the art of asking better questions to dig out information that most recruiters never get their hands on. Brilliant episode, guys, because it reminds me that the fundamentals are the most important thing in recruitment and everything else is just noise. Grab a cuppa or a lovely glass of wine, depending on when you're listening to this, and let's get into it, shall we? Wait a second, guys. Quick question for you. If you could land a new client on LinkedIn in the next couple of weeks, how much would that be worth to you? 20, 30, maybe 40k? Well, we have a pretty crazy offer on right now. If you are a recruitment business owner, then we will work with you for free and write you 2 posts at absolutely no cost. And here's the cool part. Other recruiters that have come through this free trial have managed to win new clients. They've racked up hundreds of thousands of impressions and started conversations with top-tier candidates. It's completely risk-free, so you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. If you're interested, the link's in the description below. If not, no worries. We hope you enjoy the podcast. See you later. David, thank you so much for joining us today on Top Billers Toolkit. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Thank you, mate. Really, really well. And yeah, just excited about the pod today. We're going to jump into the first question, as always, which is what's the number one tool in your toolkit, whether it be a mindset, strategy, or software?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. And so I thought about this because you guys ask it all the time. And so it's kind of like a little bit longer answer, but I'll jump into it. So mindset is kind of number one, but really where that comes into is what I optimize for. So when I think about recruiting, right, contingent recruiting, which is mostly what I do some retained. Most recruiters optimize for placement, right? That you want to make a placement. It's where you earn your commission, right? I understand that. But if you're just optimizing for placement, then you're not optimizing for the best experience for both the candidate and the client, right? So, and that can lead to problems down the road. I'm 15 years into executive search. I want to be another 15 in. So I optimized for both sides to call me back and to have a good experience, right? And so then you take that and now you drill out the 2 other parts that are most important to you. So mindset, right? And I think that's important. Everyone talks about it. But what it really means is bias towards action, like pick up the phone, talk to somebody, send another email. You have to have a short-term memory. You're going to get blasted by somebody sometime. You just have to have fun with it and like get right back to it. And you have to endure some tedium. You just have to sometimes work through the process. So that's one side of it. And then the other side is kind of operating doctrine. And that's really like when you're working with people, to give you again real examples, like I tell people right when I talk to them the first time. If I'm talking to him about a job, I tell him permission. Just say no if this doesn't sound good to you, right? Tell me to kick rocks. It's okay. I don't mind. I give him the good, bad, and the ugly in my conjecture, and I always screen out versus screen in on both sides. So that all together is really what makes them kind of the top piece of my toolkit. So it's mindset, but it's combined with other pieces, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, interesting. And just focusing on the experience piece,
Yeah.
why do you think that is so important, David? Like, did something happen in your career that made you realize how important experience is, or have you just won way more business from the experience that you've given to clients and candidates? Like, why did you mention that, do you think?
Yeah, it's just you talk to candidates and clients. So when I start getting a relationship, I'm like, why are we working together? I'll even ask candidates like, what have you not liked? What have you liked about working with recruiters? Like, I want to understand because I want to solve their problem is really what I want to get to. And in my long history of talking to people, a lot of times I get like from candidates like, oh, they didn't tell me everything about the job. And then I interviewed and the manager was crap, right? Or maybe I shouldn't say crap, but was not good.
It's
And
okay,
then
we can swear.
or I talked to the client's like, yeah, they sent over this candidate who didn't fit anything, right? Like they're just trying to force their way through and I can see they're concerned about the placement. So when I think about experience, I just want both sides at the end of this. Like, sometimes you interview and they don't connect, and that's okay. But if I've been straight all the way through with them, they both will want to call me back. And that way I'm not always like, it's nice to get repeat business. It's nice to have candidates come back to you versus always having, you always have to chase, but it's nice to get things through and through and have them come back to you. So that's where the experience part comes from. It's just talking to people and trying to figure out what works for them.
Interesting. I'd love to jump into question 2, David, just because I feel like
Yeah.
it's a really important and probably relatable moment for a lot of recruiters, which is you had a pretty tough 2024 where you dropped to your lowest billings in nearly a decade. So that must have been pretty bloody tough. But
It
then you
was
bounced
sucked.
back. Yeah, it must have sucked. But then you bounced back to your best year ever, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. And you just had this, completely polar opposite year of toughness and low billings to one of your best years. What changed? Like, why did you have your lowest billing, and how did you turn it around to your best year in billings, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, and maybe it's just me, right? But I got sucked in really bad to all the AI tools. And I got sucked into like what they can do and how they can make it easier. So at one point, like I was looking at Clay, I was looking at Paulo, I was looking at Lucia, I was looking at all these different, how can I make it easier? And then at the same time, I was also like, oh, with AI, you can go after everything. Like you could just reach out to everybody on the planet, basically. And I got out of my niche and I was spending time, and this is maybe just me, but like when I was working with AI tools, like they give you feedback. You're like, oh, I'm trying to build this better scoring system for clients. I'll give you feedback. You build a thing, give you feedback. And so I felt like I was working, but I wasn't working. I was just like in this Faustian bargain with the AI tool where I'm like giving away all my ability to actually work, and I'm trying to get it to do things for me. And then it wouldn't do what it was advertised. So I'd go to another tool, and that was like the majority of 2024 when I look back, and even kind of the beginning of 2025. And then it just hit me like, what am I doing? Like, I've been able to build a career without any of this stuff. Yes, there's some things to make things easier. We'll talk a little bit about it, but I need to go back to just the very basics of like how to do this job. And then it was more fun. Then I was actually like doing my job again. So I had like 2025 was a great year. It was really fun too. And it's just back to the things I enjoy. So I just got sucked down the wormhole. There's no other excuse for it. Maybe I bought into the marketing. Maybe I'm a sucker. Maybe that's what it comes down to.
And so I think this is such a great story, David, because I think every single recruiter, business owner, anyone in business can relate to that story of being distracted, because it sounds like that's what that was. It was like
Yeah.
shiny objects, kind of distraction, pulled away from the fundamentals of what made you
Yeah.
money or the fundamentals of business. And so my question is, and I know a lot of people will get value from this, is what were the fundamentals that you shifted to? You obviously sat down like, okay, I need to go back to basics now. What were those basic tasks, actions that you were doing every day?
Oh, sure. So let's segment it out. So the BD side, we talked specifically about that, but a while ago I realized there's this big resurgence of the hard tech sector in like the LA and Orange County basin. So I just went back to like building my lists, right, in like a Google Sheet, downloading stuff from Crunchbase, and then reaching out to people on a cadence. And we can go through all that later. And then I also went back, I've been doing this a long time, and I was really good for a long time, way before AI tools, of staying in touch. So we talked
Mm.
about experience a moment ago, right? Candidates hate it when you talk to them and then you call them about a job, it's not a fit, and then you never talk to them again. They're like, dude, I just interviewed with this person. I took like an hour of my time. So I was excellent at staying in touch long before you had tools to do that. And I kept thinking the tools would do it for me. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm losing all my relationships. So it was those two things combined. It was back to mapping the market, doing my regular BD cadence, and going back to reconnecting with people. And then, I like seeing people in person. Like I like Zoom. This is awesome. And you guys are in London, so it'd be a little bit harder to get together at the pub. But I was like, let's go out to like the clients. Let's go take people to lunch. Let's go meet for coffee and just build those relationships back. So it's kind of those two things at a high level combined, and then getting away from like the shiny tool object, which took me a little while, honestly.
Yeah. I absolutely love just like distilling stuff down to like first principles and fundamentals. And it's so refreshing, David, to like hear that story of like just I went back to basics and like
Yeah.
almost like just picking up the phone and calling people
Yeah.
as a port of call. I just love that.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah. Thank you.
refreshing. Ben, did you have a
It's
question?
refreshing to say now. It was not refreshing to do, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Um, I'd love to go deeper into the BD. You mentioned in the pre-call, David, that you use the flywheel approach to
Yeah.
BD, which is
Yeah.
calls, emails, LinkedIn DMs, and content. Can you walk us through kind of the sequence from like
Sure.
first touch to then winning the business, or at least getting the call, should I say?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Of course. So I map them. I we go through that later. But let's say so I've got my list of people that I'm going to reach out to, right? So I will call them first, right? I still like the phone. It's the fun thing to do. I'll call them. I'll email them with a follow up. Maybe a couple weeks later, or maybe a week later, I'll send them another email. I might send them a text in there. I change up my structure a little bit. And then at the end of the sequence, so I think this is the one thing that's a little bit different, is then I will send them a LinkedIn connection request. I don't do it at the beginning because what I found, and again, you guys can tell me if you agree with this or don't, but if you send somebody a LinkedIn or connection request and then they connect with you and then you immediately sell them on something, I get clients like, dude, no, like I just wanted to connect with you. So I do it at the very end. And then, when they connect, and a lot of times they do, I say, oh, thanks for connecting. And I leave it alone. Right. But now they'll start seeing my content, right? Then it's really dedicated to hiring managers. So that starts popping up in their feed. And then maybe 3 months later, I'll send them like an NPC, right? A very specific targeted NPC. And now that they've seen my stuff, now they kind of know who I am, or they have some impression of me at this point, I get more responses from that. And of course, sometimes like the timing's not right or we're not interested at this point, but it's responses versus just going into the void, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper if you don't mind, David, which is so call. Going back to what you said, call first, email, text, and then LinkedIn request. That first call, have you got an NPC ready? Are you trying to pitch a candidate from that first call?
Most of the time, it really depends on who I'm calling, but most of the time, because that's really the most relevant aspect, right? And so if I'm calling a CFO or, head of accounting or finance, it's an MPC combined with what I'm seeing in the market. Every so often, if it's a founder or something like that, I'll just be calling as an introduction to myself, right?
Mm.
Because they may not be ready to hire, but I'll say like, hey, long story short, like reaching out to you. I noticed you just got this early stage funding. It's a little early for accounting and finance, but I found people in your industry or these companies run into these issues down the line. Just want to introduce myself now. Like that is a very short call, but it gets me on the radar. And then it's also just not pitching right away. So I go back and forth depending on who I'm talking to.
That's cool. I really like that soft approach of like I've found that people in your situation have these problems down the line. I think that's a really
Yeah,
soft, nice opener to get people to kind of open up and have a conversation. Um,
it really is. It works pretty well. I've had people sometimes get back to me or talk to me or call me back, which is really, really nice.
Awesome. And forgive me, because we had the
Yeah.
pre-call a while ago, David. I forgot what the answer to this was, which maybe makes it even better because it's fresh. But what if you were to distill like where you have the most success from your BD? Is it the content? Is it that first call? Is it the connection request? Is it the NPC that you send 3 months later? Like, where are you generating the majority of your business, do you think, from your BD efforts?
75 to 80% is the MPC from 3 months later.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
like 10% is from the content itself. Like
Hmm.
twice last year, I got a DM from a hiring manager off of content. Like, hey, actually, let's talk about this. And then the rest is just kind of like coming through one of the other stages. It's almost always the later MPC, but it's having
Hmm.
built familiarity and getting out early so that I'm just kind of staying in touch, but in a very light fashion. In fact, like a couple months ago, 3 months ago, I started sending out a newsletter and it's literally just what's happening in the local market. It's nothing about recruiting, but it's another way of just staying in touch. And people respond to that. I get a lot of response like, oh, I didn't see this, or thanks for letting me know. And so it's just another way of kind of that light staying in touch, but
Hmm.
staying on the forefront of mind. Cause I mean, how many messages do you guys get every day? Like 100, 1,000? Like I think about them from a hiring manager perspective. I got to try to stay relevant and on their mind, but not overwhelming either, where you're following up every 2 minutes.
Mm. And did you test? I know it's a tough thing to answer, David, but did you test sending NPCs like straight away versus 3 months down the line after they've seen your content? And did you see a noticeable difference, or is it just working at that 3 month mark? So you're kind of continuing what's working. You see what I mean?
Yeah, and I got really so, and this is maybe more my remember I just mentioned moments ago, I didn't wanna, like, connect with somebody and then pitch them right away.
Yeah.
So I always put it back, like, at least a couple months, like, I've just connected with them 2 months later. It's 3
Mm.
months later, I will send them an NPC. I just didn't wanna be, like, right on top of it, and maybe that's just my personal conjecture, but that's what's worked so far.
Yeah. No, it does make sense, and I can understand because people get pitched almost the second that you connect. Pitch slap. It's like
Yeah.
it's a known thing on
Yes.
LinkedIn, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I definitely see And to be honest, it's worked for us in terms of we do content for clients for like 3 to 6 months, and then when we
Yeah.
start NPC campaigns, we do see like surprising results,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
what
Uh,
I'm wondering now, like, if we were to, and we may not be able to figure this out, or maybe we will, but why is it the 3 month mark that is the most successful? Is it because the content's doing the heavy lifting? Is it because the previous messages that you sent, maybe they've seen them and they're like, oh, I know David. Like, if you were to make an educated guess, David, of why it's worked at that 3 month mark as opposed to the second email or the third email, do you see what I mean? Like, I'm
hmm.
wondering why is it
Yeah.
most effective at the 3 month mark? Do you think?
I would guess probably what you mentioned is just the kind of saying the content. The other thing too is like I'm often reaching out to people pretty early. So I'm reaching out a lot of times before they actually have any accounting and finance needs. Again, because I want to get there first. Like if you think about if they post a job, what's the message inundation? Like it's a million, right? So
Mm,
if I'm one of those people, even if I'm targeted, I'm probably not getting in. But if I've hit them long before, right, and now I'm starting to circle through, and I'm trying to time it so they're going to have needs later on if things go well. That's I think kind of how it's kind of worked out together.
got it.
Again,
Okay, that's
I'm also I think I'm just freaked out about pitching to him right after I connected with him. I think that's my personal issue as well, to be honest.
well, yeah, look, it's obviously working for you. So that's interesting. So now this brings me back to the list building. That's probably the key, isn't it?
Yep.
Is that you are building a list of people that aren't necessarily hiring right now, but
Yep.
you're timing it so that the list you're building now, 3 months from now, they're going to turn into clients, 2 to 3 months from now.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the goal.
awesome. So how are you building that list then? If there was a rookie recruiter that wanted to copy what you're doing, David, how are you building that list?
Yeah, so I use Crunchbase. I'm sure there's other tools, right? So this is where I don't want to get in this shiny object. So I use Crunchbase, right? And then from Crunchbase, what you can do is you can build like a almost like a map of like, okay, here's all the companies in this type of industry. Here's where they're located. Here's where they are as far as funding, right? So they've got the seed funding or Series A or whatever it is. And then from that, you can track back which VC firms and which PE firms are most often buying into these types of companies and supporting them. And that's it. So I build that list. I then find the people that are there, whether they be founders, heads of accounting, CFOs, whatever it is. And you can find those via LinkedIn. You can find those via Lucia. That's just what I use. Other people, better tools probably. And then from there, I've now just built out my cadence. So I start reaching out to them.
Mm, awesome. Love that. And Crunchbase, I can't remember. Is it like Zoom Info? Is it really expensive, Crunchbase, or is it fairly affordable?
I think it's only like $600-700 a year.
Oh, that's really good.
So to me,
That's actually,
yeah,
yeah, pretty good.
yeah.
Um,
And finding all the companies and getting where they are in the funding cycle is really useful information.
mm,
And then you can
mm,
combine that with LinkedIn to find the candidates, right? And then you have to have
mm.
some type of enrichment tool to get their info or clients. You have to have some type of enrichment tool to get their info. But that's where I'm like, okay, very simple tools. Just use those, not worry about anything else.
I've got a
Awesome.
question on the NPC, David, because
Yeah.
I love a good NPC. It's such a brilliant. It's just the fundamentals of recruitment, which is I have an amazing product, and would you like it? Like that is the fundamentals of recruitment, isn't it?
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
I guess my question is, how do you know what's your assessment for a good NPC? Like how do you figure out in your world who's a good NPC? Oh, that's a good NPC. I'm going to definitely market them out. Can you tell
Yeah.
me your process if that's okay?
Yeah. Yeah. And that, you can tell me yours after that since you guys do this for other people. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think when I think about an NPC, I think about something that's scarce, right? Because
Mm,
if they can just find it anywhere, then I'm relevant is done.
yeah.
My relevance is gone. I think about and then a proof of an outcome, right? Because
Mm,
and I think from an accounting and finance, and again, the other people have different ideas, but accounting and finance is really there to tell the story of what's happening in the company, to build processes, to make things clean and understandable. So I want somebody that it's hard to find they're not gonna find them in other places, has proven an outcome that's relevant to their industry, and then that's kind of and then is low risk, right? So that's the last thing is like if they're gonna hire somebody, they're gonna pay a fee. They want somebody who's gonna stick around, who's gonna be there for a little while, right? So if you can find somebody, and then when I don't send a resume, obviously it's a bullet point, but it talks about what problems this person has solved in the industry that's relevant to them, and
mm,
then how this might align with what they're going through. And that's an MPC, right? And then the last thing, and this is just for me personally, is like I MPC at like the director or senior director level, because I think if you, and this is if you MPC like a senior accountant level, they know you as a person who hires senior accountants, and you want to be known as the person who hires at the highest level, and then you can fill out underneath when you need to.
Mm, really interesting. And the proven outcome piece is really interesting because, we've done NPCs for lots of different industries. The easiest is
Yeah.
salespeople because the proven outcome, this person has made 10 million last year. Do you want to
Yeah.
speak to them? And it's like an easy answer. It's like, yeah, of
Yeah,
course,
of
man, 10
course.
million.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
interested. And we're still figuring this out, but I'm
Sure.
interested from your industry, David. Like accountants, I'm guessing don't have, or some of them might not have. I might be guessing or assuming here, don't have the same proven outcomes like generated 5 million for the business, or so what. How do you assess a proven outcome, or how do you put it in there for your candidates?
Sure, sure. So, like, let's say you're reaching out to a venture-backed company that's in the early stages, right? So they've got to build processes. They've got to understand what's happening with their funding levels. They've got to structure accounting a certain way. So I find somebody that's like, let's say they've insourced all the accounting, they built out the close function, they put in a new system, and now they have actionable financials that the company can use to review and then use that to get more funding. That is a
Mm,
proven outcome that's very relevant to the company that's might be looking for something like that. But
love
yes, I get how it would be much easier if I could say like generated $10 million. Like, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, any of our sales clients that want to do NPCs, I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really useful though, David. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
And you may have said this, so forgive me for asking again, but the
Yeah.
NPC at the 3-month mark, are you doing that via LinkedIn or email or both, David? Where does that come in?
Usually by email. So usually
Cool.
just standard email. But I've done so the LinkedIn has a voice note thing you can do. So I just did those a few the other day. So I
Well,
play around with like different things because and this is just my guess, but like when you're cold calling, you're just trying to meet people where they are, but you don't know where they are. So
mm,
you got to try different channels to figure out what's going to work.
yeah,
Really interesting.
interesting. And sorry, did we answer this? Like, which channel has been the most successful for you, David? Is it email, LinkedIn, or call? Which channel
Ah,
tends to be the most
mo-
successful?
Usually email. So usually
Okay.
after that later mark, right, when I send the email, that's where I get the highest amount of return, right? And
I
then
see.
that'll generate a call from there.
Cool, man. Awesome. So you will always, most of your calls are booked through the email once you send the email
Yes.
through there. Cool. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
But I like
yeah,
to call people because I want them to hear my voice. And then I'm just not sending out 10,000 emails. I'm like, oh, I'm an actual person doing this, right? So
yeah,
that's why I still think
100%.
it's relevant.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point because the call email trifecta is actually spoken about a lot on our podcast, David, where they cold call.
Yep.
The hiring manager doesn't necessarily pick up, but you leave a
Yeah.
voicemail and reference the email and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
couldn't get you, but I'm sending you an email now." And then when they read the email, they've
Yeah.
typically heard the voicemail. Um, yeah, Ben, were you
Yeah.
going to ask a question, dude?
Yes, I was. It was going to be around content actually now, David. And I know
Sure.
you say you only generate 10% of your business, but
Yeah.
my feeling knowing content is that actually it's probably doing a lot of nurturing over that 3 months before you send that NPC. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to track these things, but
Yeah.
my feeling is it's having a lot of impact on the nurturing process. So I'd love to know, what are you writing about? How do you structure things? Like, what have you found works? Maybe just a little bit of insight on that would be amazing.
Sure. So I write everything that I write. You can look through all my writings lately. Is I write about what's happening in the market and what's going to be important to them. So examples, right? All this money is flowing into the hard tech sector recently. So I was like, oh, here's these companies that are winning tons of money. Here's how it's going to probably impact hiring. If you're looking for hiring, you're going to kind of find a tight market. Here's some of the things you should look for. And it's just completely relevant to those people. In the SaaS market right now, there's issues with what's happening with SaaS companies versus AI companies. So I wrote about that because there's a lot of SaaS and AI clients out here. So
Mm,
everything I'm writing about sometimes has relation to hiring, but it's a lot about whatever I'm seeing in the market that I find interesting. When I'm talking to client managers, what they're talking about.
mm,
So, and I don't have like a count. I think people like do that where they set up like, I'm going to write about these 10 posts, right? And I have my hook and all that stuff. I just find stuff that's find interesting, and then I write a couple posts about it. I'll have AI do research. That's where I do have the AI help, and then I'll put them up. So I don't have a regular cadence yet, which I think people are probably way better at than I am.
cool. Have you noticed a common theme between what, and it's fine if you don't, but I'm just curious, have you noticed like certain posts or topics tend to do really well with your previous content?
Yeah, it's mostly as I've reconnected and I built this more going after the hard tech and the IAI stuff, the more I write about that, the more people respond to that. So it's very
Mm,
industry specific, even if
mm.
it's not related specifically to hiring in that industry, just what's happening in the industry.
Cool, awesome. And how do you find like are you like a natural writer, David? Like, do you enjoy writing? Because that I find that a lot of people, I guess, with ChatGPT, it is becoming and Claude, it's becoming significantly easier to write good content. But are there any specific like how have you found the writing process? Is it fairly simple and straightforward for you, or is there any kind of tips and tricks around that from your trial and error?
Yeah, that's I use it so I use AI to clean it up. So when I, but I've always had like a lot of ideas about what's happening and I like to write because it helps me crystallize my thoughts. So I
Mm,
write very much like, here's what I'm thinking. So I want to put it down, right? Because I
mm,
want to understand it, help me conceptualizing what's happening. And then I write because then if I learn about this stuff and I internalize it, then when I'm talking to people, right, I have more knowledge about what's happening with them. So
mm,
to answer your question specifically, it's now that I've done it for over a year, I've gotten more comfortable with it and I use AI for research and to clean things up. When I write, it's stream of consciousness. You would never want me to post what I just write directly. And so I have AI like, let's put a structure and clean up to it. But now that I've done it for a while, it's like anything, right? You do it for a year, well, it's not so bad anymore.
mm. Love that. I know we're getting through these topics at lightning speed, David, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Are there any other topics that we haven't asked you about, or it could be subtopics on the things that we have talked about? Anything else that we can dive deeper into that you think might be useful for the listeners? It could be on a BD perspective. It could be on. I think there's an area of eliciting better, more information from candidates that we haven't
Yeah.
covered. What's your feeling?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll talk about that. I forgot all about that, honestly. I'm getting carried away. So so when I think about like, when you're interviewing or when you're talking to a client, right? Your clients have patterns, right? They're talking to recruiters and they're used to having a conversation. So let's say for accounting, it's like if you're working on an accounting manager, they're like, oh, they'll manage the month end close. Okay. And then if a recruiter's like, oh, how does that close work or how many days does that take? Great. That's one level of information. But to really get down to the nuts and bolts and to make it better for both sides, it's like you have to dive deeper. So I'll give you an example. If they're like, okay, well, this person manages the month end close. All right, well, how long does that take? Great. And then what stuff is broken in the close? What stuff is manual? What stuff is done by the system? Uh, and if I were to see on day 3, what's actually happening? Are approvals coming through the system? Are you overwhelmed with work? What if somebody goes out? Who takes on that work? Is there processes there? Like, you just go through all that information, and it's like, oh, well, what if somebody's out? How does the team feel about that? Do they have to take on all the work? Does that push the close out? After the close is over, are there post adjusting entries? Like, that's one minor question that you could unpack with 10 other ones. But then when you have all that, you go out to the market and you talk to a candidate, and they're like, oh, what's it like when you close? Instead of saying, like, oh, it takes 5 days, like, this is exactly what you're going to get into, right? This is
Mm,
exactly what it's going to look like. And so now they'll know at that initial conversation, oh, that sounds like a train wreck. I don't want that. Or that sounds like a train wreck. I've fixed that before. That's really exciting to me. Right?
mm,
So that eliciting a better information right from the intake then makes it better on the recruiting side. And also it interrupts hiring managers to actually think about what's happening in their company. So then you get better information that goes back to both sides and you get a better match, right? And you can
mm,
screen out earlier. And then when you do present people, you have a better alignment. So that's kind of where the eliciting better information comes from. And that's
mm,
everywhere. Like let's say you talk to and they're like, "Oh, we have good work-life balance." All right, well, what does that mean? Like, if somebody has to leave every day at 4, right? Because 'Cause they've got kids, does the team get pissed off? Do they like that? Like,
mm,
is that a problem? Who's the last person that got promoted? Who would you clone on your team? Oh, that guy works till 9 every night. So you got good work-life balance, but nobody's getting promoted unless they're gonna grind it out. Like, that's the information that's like gold, and if you can get to that, it just makes it better on both sides of the equation. So that's
mm,
really and that's really, really, like, actively listening, and this is my little rant, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But my feeling is a lot of times when you're going through intakes, you're going through recruiting, you're asking the questions, they're giving the answer, and they're going on to the next question,
mm,
right? And, like, I think one of the most important skills is, like, you have to sit there and you have to have all your stuff off, like we talked about, no phones, no emails, And whatever they're saying, you're going to sit with it for a minute, think for a second, and then follow up and go deeper and deeper and deeper. And that just makes the whole process all the way better. So it's one of those core things that I think is so important to the job. And I think in today's this age where everyone's more distracted, it's actually getting more valuable versus less.
Yeah,
Y-
really good point.
You
You sound like a master at the questioning process, David. I can tell you're thinking about every scenario. Is that just learned from having thousands of these conversations, or did you have any people that helped you with that, or what's your how did you develop that out of interest?
Well, first of all, let's never say I'm a master at anything. I don't agree with that. I'm not a
Yeah.
subject
Okay.
matter expert. I just try really hard. So let's be very clear about that.
Yeah.
But it's I have a really good so I work at Cobra Guard Alliance Resource Group, and our boss, our mentor, Jennifer Hannings, was really good about teaching me that a long time ago.
Mm,
And then again, so I started there, like how do you really interview? And then from that as well, having it all goes back to like really talking to candidates and clients. What do they like? Like I'm very unafraid to say, like, what have you liked working about us? What do you not like? Like not in a survey, but what can I do better? And that's one of the things that come up. Like people will say like they don't feel like anybody actually listened to them. So,
mm,
and it's just you take that enough times, you hear that, and you're like, all right, I got to do a better job at that on both sides of the equation.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was going to jump to a completely different subject, Ben, unless you have any specific questions on what we just
I
spoke
just
about.
had another one. It was more BD related, but I
Yeah.
was kind of thinking of a couple of things. One, because the NPC for you works on the 3 month mark, David.
Yeah.
That's I feel like quite a long time to wait for a. I mean, it's not long if it's continually working and you built a pipeline, but um, is there a faster way that you found to get conversation started, or is it always like a 3 month cycle to get someone to respond to you? What's your feeling?
Nah, I've just done it 2 to 3 months, so 2 to 3, but I've just always waited that long. So maybe that's again my issue more than anything else. But I've always like after we connect, I put it down like I'm not going to reach out to him for a couple months. Now I will say there's some exceptions to that. So I've had this happen before where I connect with somebody and then a week later they post a job. Or a week
Mm,
later, they get a huge new funding announcement. In that case, I break that rule and we'll reach out right then because they're already familiar with me. But if nothing new has happened that time, I tend to wait. I tend to
mm.
feel better about it. I tend to feel like I don't want to overwhelm somebody. And, we've already connected. They have some time to kind of nurture, as you said, through my content. It just seems to work better. But that's just me.
Yeah, awesome. And then so my next question was, how are you keeping track of? Do you have? I'm guessing you have a CRM, or do you have a basic spreadsheet that you keep things in there to remind you of when to follow up with these guys?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah, we use Bullhorn, which is, an
Nice.
ATS, and you can set like even like the old school version, you can say, all right, I reached out on this day, I can set a follow up on this day, right? It's
Awesome.
very simple to do that.
Cool. Wicked. Love that. Sam, feel free to go on to the random topic that you had in mind.
Well, it's not actually.
Oh
I'm going to
no,
go to the
random
other.
topic.
It's not actually that random. It's. I just want to go back to that year that you were distracted by all the AI tools, David, and then you had this
Yeah.
realization that I've got to go back to basics. I'm just
Yeah.
curious what your day plan was every single day to get you back up to your normal level of billings. Like, did you have a plan? Like, okay, in the morning I'm going to reach out to 10 candidates, and then in the evening I'm going to do this, and then I'm just wondering if you had a structured plan that other people could follow.
Oh, 100%. So I planned so the on Friday I'd planned for like following week, right? And then
Cool.
every day I would do at least some BD. So I say some because you spend like let's say you send 10 messages out and then you get a response or you're talking to somebody. So there's always
Yeah.
some BD in there. And then I'd block out some time towards the end of the day to do those reconnect calls and emails that we talked about. So I do that more towards the end of the day because I know those people, right? It's easier. I don't have to think as much as far as like how I'm going to reach out to them. What are they going to respond to? It's somebody I've already had a relationship with. And then in the middle of the day would be where I'd schedule my like screens or like phone calls or not NPCs, I'm sorry, but like if you're going to do an interview or something like that would be in the middle of
Cool.
the day. But
Yeah.
I think, and you guys tell me this, but I try to do BD early because it's really easy to look and be like, oh, I got to talk to this guy or whatever. And like, you're like, oh, I'll get to it tomorrow. So if you come in, you're like, all right, that's on my calendar. It's a big red notice, like this needs to get done. You just get after it. And then you're like, all right, I'll just get through it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Feel
And
like a
what
lot
did?
of
Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I feel like morning is definitely a common theme between.
hardcore BDers, just getting it done first thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. Go
And
ahead,
did you
Sam.
have a so you sat down and did BD in the morning, David?
Yeah.
When you were starting from scratch, I'm guessing. What did that look like? Was it like, so you create the list? Do you call everyone first and just do a warm intro, and then you wait for a week? Like, I'm curious how that played out from the very beginning, and how you
Sure.
do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I should have given more.
No, don't worry, it's all good.
Specific. So the planning the week before, right, is the whole list of people that I'm going to reach out to, right?
Yeah.
So that's so because if you start getting into like making lists, you'll just take forever to do it. And then you take out the top 10, and then you come in the morning and you've already got their number set up. You just call, and then
Nice.
you send a follow up email like in the afternoon, which is reference
Cool.
to that phone call. So that's how I'd do that, and I wouldn't worry about adding or changing or anything on the list unless it was like a wrong number. I'd get rid of them or the person's not there until the following Friday. So just make little notes and then change the new list for Friday and then just do the whole thing again. But
Nice.
you can't get lost in planning either. It's real easy to just spend time building lists, which you never use.
Yeah. And so what was that? What did you say on that first call and that first email? I'm guessing you didn't NPC straight away. As you said, you kind of waited for 3 months, or was this list different? Do you mind letting me know what you did for them?
Yeah, so it would depend. So if I'm calling a founder, it's more of an intro, like a warm intro to what they might be going through. If it's calling to like a CFO or a head of finance, something like that, then it could either that or it could be an MPC. Because
Cool.
sometimes if I have a really candidate that fits all those things, I will just, I mean, they're there. This is when you got to go for it.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
would really depend on who I'm reaching out to and then kind of where they are in like the funding cycle and then what candidates I have available. So kind of put that all together.
Cool. Okay. So it's a mixture of like warm intros and NPCs, depending on the
Yeah.
client and what stage they're at, and
Yeah,
what candidates are
100%.
circulating around your network. Cool.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. And then I'm going to go off on a completely different topic now, still related to what we're speaking about, but just like different to BD.
Yeah.
You played around with AI tools for like a year,
Yeah.
David. So you must have looked at all of them, tested all of them. I'm curious if there's any AI tool that you currently use alongside your fundamentals that is like still really useful. Did you keep any of the shiny objects? Basically, is what I'm asking.
I didn't, and I'm
Oh,
sure
really?
I'm
Wow.
sure there I got rid of so all I have so I'll tell you exactly what I use. So we use Lucia for like enrichment, and then you can set up sequences in there. I use Crunchbase for all the kind of traditional kind of finding client stuff. LinkedIn Recruiter. I would love to not use LinkedIn anymore, but I just can't get away from it. Maybe I'm an addict. Like I just don't know how to get it. I use the regular LinkedIn platform for like, messaging and stuff like that, and then Bullhorn for our ATS. And that's it.
Cool. And then,
So
so which
pretty
ones
simple.
do you keep all of them? Do you use all of them now, David, or you use none of them now apart from your CRM?
No, those are the ones. Those are the tools that I use now.
I see. Okay, cool.
That
Okay.
little group, and none of those are real like heavy AI. We're going to do everything
Yeah.
for you. It's just very you
Yes.
got to build it in. You got to do the work yourself. So I still use a few tools, but I also they're simple and I know how to use them, and so
Mm,
I'm not stuck doing a lot of work with them. I can just get real simple results.
yeah. Awesome.
Love
That's
that.
great. Cool. No more questions from me, Ben. Have you got any more questions?
No, I think we're probably coming towards the end of the podcast, David, unless
Okay.
there's anything else that we have missed that you feel like we should touch upon. And we've covered some really good topics today. So thank you so much. Is there anything, any kind of final words or final topics that you want to mention before we end the pod, David?
Can I mention that I'm hiring? And so if anybody in the Orange County
Cool.
area wants to work for me and thinks I'm okay, like have them DM.
Yeah,
me.
that's cool. I mean, maybe we talk about that. So is this going to be your first hire, David, or maybe you can talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, no, it'll be we restructured a little bit internally, so this will be the first time back before when I was here before. It's a long story. I was here before I had a team, and then I left, and then have come back, and so now it'll be the first person that this will be first person I'll be hiring under me as I'm back.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, I've got one last question. Just
Yeah,
you might not have any habits that help your mindset, David, but I'm a big habit person. So like cold
Yeah.
showers, gym, jujitsu,
yeah.
reading. I probably do a bit too much of those habits. I absolutely love them. They keep my mental state like at a
Yeah.
very good level, especially as
Yeah.
I have kids. You have kids. It can be a bit hectic trying to run a business and look after kids.
Uh-huh.
Keeps me
Yeah.
sane. I'm wondering if there's any habits that you have either recently implemented or used for a long time that have helped you in terms of mindset?
Oh yeah. The big thing is I'm a 4:30 a.m. So like this morning I was already at the gym, and then before we got on the podcast, so I'm always I just wake up and I get the workout done, and then it just puts me in the right frame of mind. Like I feel like you did that, you already won the day. You get in, you do a little bit of BD, and like everything from there is gravy. So
Yeah.
that's kind of and I have kids, like we mentioned, so there's a lot of things to do at night. There's always lots of activities. So that's kind of the big habit, is to just get that done in the morning. And then I also have a habit of at least a couple nights a week working at night after the kids go down,
Interesting.
because I really like the quiet time. Like there's
Mm.
no distraction. I'm just thinking about different things. That's when I write a lot of times. So those are kind of the two like big habits that I have out of anything else. By the way, if you do cold showers, you're savage. I've tried that a few times, and I'm like, God, that's cold. Why do people do that?
I think
And-
Sam, you're still doing cold showers, aren't you?
Every morning, yeah. It's such a great. They're so uncomfortable. It doesn't matter how
Yeah.
long I've done them for, especially in the UK in bloody December and November when
Oh,
it's
yeah.
0 degrees. It's just amazing when you introduce little bits of pain into your life, how everything else feels easier. It really
Yeah.
does work like that in my brain anyway. It's like little bits of pain consistently makes life feel easier because you're actively introducing these little bits of pain. But I had one last question, David, and this is a selfish question to see how you operate, just so I can copy you. The times that you work not late into the night, do you still wake up at 4:30? Like, are you a very strict, like, I'm getting up no matter what, even on like 5 hours sleep?
100%. So
Okay,
it just
interesting.
like you mentioned like that, because I just feel like I'm just gonna get up. Like it's just the alarm goes off. I sit there for 5 minutes, and then that's it. I could just get up. You pull the covers off, and you just get going. And so you mentioned like, yeah, if you get a little bit of pain, like you said,
Mm,
the rest of the day is just easy. I don't know. It's just part of the job. Like I just enjoy it. So
yeah.
yes, no matter what, unless I'm sick or something like that, I am up. And so I go to and it's 4 days a week, always, sometimes a fifth. So at 4:30, and then on the weekends, usually like at 5:30 or 6. So it's
Cool.
always early.
Awesome.
There we go,
Love that.
Sam.
Yeah.
You know what you
I
got
have to get up then tomorrow.
Well, I'll try. I'll tell you what. I'll throw this freezing cold shower. So I know this off. How long do you do it for?
I do it for 2 minutes, 30 seconds, a very specific time.
Oh! All right, I'll try it for a minute.
There was one time I did it for like 7 minutes and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what is going on? And I was just like, this is just ridiculous. I'm like literally about to get pneumonia for like 7 minutes every morning. So I was like, no, let's just go back to 2 minutes 30. I think that's fine.
Awesome. You get up and go to the gym tomorrow, and I'll get up and do the cold shower.
Okay, cool. I'll message you, David, to make sure, and you can message me.
100%.
So funny.
Cool, David. It was so lovely to speak to you, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. And thank you for sharing your wisdom bombs. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys. It's so fun to talk to you.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Tune in for another episode next week, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Peace and love.